Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today, presented by Snickers. Snickers satisfies. I'm Jamie, that's Dave, that's Heath. We're looking at the wide receivers to add off the waiver wire. We'll get to the tight ends as well. And this is a very interesting list of guys because there could be some potential starters, but they are kind of tied to some different situations. So you got Isaiah Mckenzie for the Bills. Well, what happens if Cole Beasley does return? Gabriel Davis most likely not going to be able to go based on their vaccination status. Alan Lazard. What happens if MVS does return? He was on the COVID-19 list, did not play in Week 16. KJ Osborne, he's tied to Adam Thielen. What happens if Thielen plays? Can you trust KJ Osborne? We know that there is no Mike Williams for the Chargers. What happens if Jalen Guyton comes back? And then Brashad Perryman, can you trust someone who's been out for an extended period of time? He's activated off the COVID-19 list, but the Bucs have a need at wide receiver, so he might be in a very good spot. So let's get to these situations and break them down one at a time. We'll start with the Buffalo situation. So last week, Isaiah Mckenzie was an absolute stud, stepping in for both Cole Beasley and Gabriel Davis, Emmanuel Sanders, Stephon Diggs, 12 targets, 11 catches, 125 yards, and a touchdown. Obviously, Diggs was good as well. But this was against the Patriots in New England. Now they get the Falcons at home, Heath. Isaiah Mckenzie, if Davis and Beasley are both out, must-start wide receiver?
Yeah, borderline top 24 guy. I would really like. He would be my favorite option on the waiver wire. I'd like to know for sure that Cole Beasley wasn't going to play, but I think even if Beasley comes back, Mckenzie will have a role.
Dave, you agree on that?
100%. And this isn't the first time that we've seen Isaiah Mckenzie play a big role for Buffalo with Cole Beasley off the field. You might remember Week 17 of last year for the Bills. Cole Beasley was out. Isaiah Mckenzie was in. He had 9 targets. He caught 6 passes for 65 yards and 2 touchdowns. Maybe you don't remember it because it was Week 17 and no one cares about fantasy football when you get to Week 17 of the 2020 season. But the 2021 season, Week 17 matters a lot. And if this guy's playing and is the number 2 target for Josh Allen, oh man, against Atlanta, I would expect a huge game.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's number 3 target if Dawson Knox gets a little bit more work and an easier matchup, but certainly in the top 3 for sure, based on the opportunity. So just keep an eye on Beasley's status because when he was placed on the COVID-19 list, he is unvaccinated, as we know. So the 10-day window might be available for him to return. Gabriel Davis, however, placed on the list on Friday, also unvaccinated, according to reports. He is not going to return. So opportunity is there for Isaiah Mckenzie. Let's talk about the Packers situation because Alan Lazar, 2 of the last 3 games, 13 or more PPR points, has scored in 2 of those 3 games. But could have had a touchdown in 3 in a row, did not score against the Ravens. He's done a nice job. Just we haven't seen the spike in targets that we're looking for, certainly without MVS on the field. So, Heath, if there is no Valdez-Scantling, there is Lazard. How do you like it?
I think he's more of a low-end number 3 as opposed to the borderline number 2 that Mckenzie has been.
Minnesota, though.
He does get Minnesota. I'm just not sure. Like, we have seen him with 2 catches in 3 of his last 4 games, and even without MVS, he hasn't seen, like you said, the big target spike. Not more than 75 yards in any game this season, and only 60 in 2. So I don't think there's going to be a huge role there, even without MVS.
Okay. I'm a little bit more optimistic about Lazard, but we'll see how things go there. Again, MVS could be eligible to return off of the COVID-19 list. Now, Dave, when we look at KJ Osborne, your fellow University of Miami guy, has been awesome this season when he's seen 6 or more targets. It's happened 7 times. In 6 of those games, he scored 14 or more PPR points, including Week 16 when Adam Thielen left with the ankle injury against the Rams. They get the Packers this week. Can you trust KJ Osborne, mostly in a situation where Minnesota could be chasing points if Thielen is not on the field?
Well, that's the first thing. If Adam Thielen plays, then there's no way I'm going to go with KJ Osborne, even as a number 3 receiver, not even as a flex. And I'm already going to take Isaiah Mckenzie over him, period. But if I can't get my cloppies on Mckenzie, then Osborne is someone who I'd be mildly interested in, provided I also couldn't get one of the Packers. He'll be okay. It's a good matchup. And it was this Vikings offense that really struck the Packers hard through the passing game and really exposed them. We saw a lot of offenses do a great job against Green Bay following what the Vikings did. I would suspect that Osborne would register as a low-end number 3 receiver for me this week.
All right, so again, we'll see what happens. A lot of scenarios at play here with these guys, and one that doesn't really have a scenario at play because we don't expect at this point Mike Evans to go for the Bucs because not only is he dealing with that hamstring injury, but also being placed on the reserve COVID-19 list. Brashad Perryman last week, Heath, was somebody you said wouldn't be your favorite Bucs receiver if he cleared the COVID-19 protocols. And even without clearing the COVID-19 protocols, he wasn't far off from what the other guys were aside from Antonio Brown. The combination of Cyril Grayson and Scotty Miller and Tyler Johnson had 3 catches, I think it was, for 81 yards on 4 targets, and that was all from Cyril Grayson because Miller did nothing, and obviously Tyler Johnson did not have a target. So Brashad Perryman, this is a revenge game of sorts. He did play with the Jets in 2020. does he have an opportunity to help fantasy managers? We know Tom Brady, I'm sure, would like a proven veteran on the field to help Antonio Brown.
Yeah, when you look up in the dictionary for boom or bust, you see Brashad Perryman. That's exactly what he is this week. I mean, 2 targets, 1 catch, 58 yards, 1 touchdown. If you told me that was his stat line this week, I wouldn't be that surprised. I think what those other wide receivers did last week is good in that it shows you Perryman could come in and be the number 2 right behind Antonio Brown. It's bad in that there might be 4 targets available for him, and he's going to have to score a 50-yard touchdown on one of them to be good.
But this scenario did arise 2 years ago.
That's right.
When it was Jameis Winston. There was no Mike Evans. There was no Chris Godwin. He was a star for fantasy managers. Obviously, there was no Antonio Brown as well. But it could be fun. I think if you're looking for a boomer bust, you're an underdog in your fantasy league championship. Somehow you managed to get there. He's available on waivers. He could be a guy that can win it for you. As you saw, had the 1 catch for 58-yard touchdown a couple weeks ago.